All right, welcome back to TML Weekly. This is season 2, episode 10. As always, presented by Bjorn and Don Cherry Sports Grill. No Jan this week. He's busy, so just the two of us today, and we're gonna be going over the past couple games of the Leafs, going over the Four Nations preview for Team Canada, who we think should make it, who we think will make it. We'll touch on that later, but yeah, Jan or John, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so shout out to our boy Johnny, who and we got to give thanks to Nolan here. Nolan gave him access to the Airbnb in Monte Carlo, so Johnny's tripping the life fantastic overseas. Yeah, so listen, before we get going, there is one thing that I did want to give a special shout out to one of our listeners, good family friend of ours, Tracy Ball, has a massive Peloton fan. And if you're in the GTA and you're in Sherway Gardens, check out the Peloton big sign that she's got in Sherway Gardens. There's a photo of her congratulating her for all the work she's done this year. So Trace, way to go! I'm proud of you. You're doing a great job. Now getting back to our Maple Leafs. Interesting week here. I watched that Florida game, and after feeling okay about where we were, I think Florida really came out and let us know that when Florida wants to be Florida still, they're still the team to beat. They looked all world against us, and we got hit with a flurry. It was like bang bang, and it was 2-0. And we could never quite get our feet under ourselves. So, Florida. I think. How do you feel about that Florida game? Was that Florida saying to you like, "Hey, you guys have had a nice little start to the season, but we're still Florida"?
Yeah, for sure. I think coming into the game, they lost 5 of their last 6 or something like that. They were on a bit of a skid. So that when they're playing the Leafs, they're going to come out. Everyone's watching, divisional rival. They're going to come out flying. And I think after the game, they actually talked to Stolarz, OEL, and Lawrence and said, like, sorry, guys, you guys caused at the wrong time. Like, on a losing skid, playing the Leafs. So, tough game. So, lost without Matthews. So, it was a good time to bring him back. Didn't want to bring him back on a 7-game win streak and have him mess it up. And
So yeah, so what I look at the Florida game and I think, you know what, it's while we're feeling good, and there's every reason right now to feel good about being a Leaf fan. There's every reason to feel good about being in that locker room without the savior for 10 games and still playing like 700 hockey. Like there's all good feelings. It is just a little reality check to know that when April and May and hopefully June rolls around, you still got to drive through Sunrise, Florida to make it. Tampa, I think, was our next game, and you know what? I don't care about how old Tampa is, how Tampa struggles. I always feel like whenever we play Tampa, we're going to get their best, and I still believe, even though the numbers don't justify it, I still believe that Vasilevsky is the best goalie in the league. I believe that to my core. I know he's had a tough start. If there's a one game that I got to win, I still want Vasilevsky in net for me personally. I loved the way we came out though. After a tough night against Florida, I loved the way we came out. Didn't necessarily love the way we ended the game. That was a little bit of a hold your breath at the end. But what I really enjoyed about that game was, you know what, we didn't have our best at the end, but we still won. And that's the sign of a really good team. When you can, you did enough early, you got a big enough lead. We look good. It was the Savior's first game back. We're working him back in the lineup. I like that. I felt overall, it was the right way to come out. That's what I wanted to see, because I feel like in years past, we'd get pumped by Florida. We'd go into Tampa. We'd be feeling shitty about ourselves. And then we get rolled by Florida. And then we'd go into a game like Chicago, and we'd always underperform against Chicago. You know what? It was funny. I was talking to a buddy, and we were talking about the Chicago game last year. And I don't know if you recall, but I almost had a seizure when we were doing the show. Game went into overtime, and we decided that we were going to roll out Nick Robertson and Max Domi as the forward group in overtime. We had a face-off in their end. We could have called a timeout. We didn't call a timeout. Both players went for the puck in the corner. Both guys got trapped. Chicago came up the ice and scored the winner. And I almost died watching that, having a seizure, thinking like, oh my God, why are we giving points away? And so getting pumped in Florida, I could have seen in years past us going right down that same path again. I love it. I love that we didn't. And I give full credit to the coaching staff, and I give full credit to the guys who have adopted and really bought into his program. Because what you've seen here is, like, again, that first period against Chicago, we looked really good. That second period against Chicago, we had a second period snooze. Everybody, I don't know if they were having cocktails in between periods and a couple darts, but it was not a good effort in the second period. And that game could have got away from us. Stolarz in that second period against the Blackhawks, hats off to him. That guy is just, man, he might be the best bargain goaltender that free agency has given.
Kevin Lankinen too, out of Vancouver.
Well, I mean, Vancouver's got other issues though. Like Vancouver's in the world of, I don't know what's going on in Vancouver.
I think they got him at like $800K, and he's just had the NHL record for 10 straight away wins. But yeah, Stolarz is still a bargain and a half.
So anyways, so that's my take on kind of where we're at here. I think if I'm taking anything away from this week, it's, we've worked Matthews back in the lineup. He looked good. He got a goal the other night. Typical Matthews goal, right? He gets in, he's not missing from there.
No.
But we haven't played our best, but we still found ways to win. And I think in years past, where I feel significantly better about this team is the development and the structure. You know what? And you know who I give a lot of credit to? I'm going to say this is going to sound silly. It's not Morgan Riley on defense. It is Chris Tanev. I think I'm just going to say this. I feel like a broken record because I feel like I talk about Chris Tanev all the time. He is such a settling force back there. He is, man, he eats up minutes. He's not big. He's big, but he's not flashy, if you know what I mean by big, right? Yeah. He's not like your Pietrangelo or your Cale Makar. Like he's a steady guy who just allows everybody else to be calm on the ice, and there's trust. And I think that is something that we have sorely missed on the blue line. So that's kind of my take on the week that was. Noah, what did you think about the Tampa and the Blackhawk game?
Yeah, the Tampa game was looking super good. 4-0 after the second period, obviously, and just almost collapsed. I was saying not like this. This is something that the Leafs in the past would definitely blow. You got close. That penalty on OEL with 2 minutes left. That was a terrible
Muffin call.
Yeah, but ended up squeaking away with the win there, and 2-0 against Tampa this year, which is huge. It's always big to beat those divisional teams. And surprisingly beat a bottom team in Chicago last night, and now we're back to top of the division.
So let me ask you this question, because listen, I'm a big Connor Bedard fan. I don't know how you can't be. I think the kid's got all the talent in the world. He rolled in last year. He rolled in with hype like you haven't seen in a long time. And this year, he rolled in, he played the game. I think he had one noticeable shift in the entire game.
Didn't have a shot on goal.
It was I watched the game, and I watch every game, but that game, I was less focused on us and watching us and what we were doing. And every time he was on the ice, I tried to follow him like, as much as you can on TV, right? Where you're just
Yep.
keyed in on one guy. But I try like just I don't know if he's not if he's got a little bit of an injury. I don't know if it's upstairs. But there is a different swagger to him. He looks like a guy who's just going through it right now.
Yeah.
And I hate to see it. I'll be honest. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm glad we beat them, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm glad we beat them. But for a guy that's as talented as he is, playing with you and me on his line, I just I don't know. I feel for the kid. I do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm a huge Bedard fan, so I want to see him succeed. I think he's just going through a sophomore slump, like you see most guys do. They come in the league, tear it up, and then second year comes around, and guys figure out who they are. They know how to shut them down. They've seen him a couple times. So I think next year he'll be back to what we saw last year, like dominating more, especially as he gets better teammates around him. He's playing with like
You and
Bertuzzi.
me.
Yeah.
He's playing with you and me.
Yeah.
And so for everybody out there, if you're writing Connor Bedard off, here's what I want to remind you all of. Do yourself a favor before you throw the kid away. Go back and look at not Cale Makar, but Nathan McKinnon's second year. Go back and look at Nathan McKinnon's third year, right? It's not always a hockey stick progression, right? But elite talent has a way of rising to the top. And so I think you're right, Nolan. I think the league has kind of figured out him from last year, and they've made their adjustments. Now it's up to this young 20-year-old kid to figure out, how do I then make the adjustment to the adjustment? And Connor Bedard's got great people around him. He's going to figure it out. He's going to be okay. But he's really going through it right now, and it's a tough thing to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely want to see him succeed. I think he's the future of Canada hockey. Like, there's him, McDavid, Celebrini, those guys. It's gonna be super fun to watch. Speaking of Canada, you want to get into the Four Nations?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay.
You know what? And I'm glad you brought up Macklin Celebrini, because before we get into, so I didn't have Celebrini on my team. Johnny didn't have Celebrini. Did you have Celebrini?
No.
I'll be very honest. I was like that far away. I had Bedard as my 13th forward, as my last guy in for Team Canada, because I think he's the future of Canada hockey. I just believe that based on the pedigree and everything he's done as a junior and up till now. And I also think that if he were to be around guys like Crosby and McKinnon and Cale Makar, and, you're around that elite talent, guys that are that good radiate and gravitate to those players. And they think the game on the same level. They see the game on the same level. And I think that if he was on this team, you would have seen an uptick in Connor Bedard's play. But my God, listen, if you guys are not watching very much San Jose hockey, I'm telling you, stay up late, watch Macklin Celebrini play. He is a player and a half. I love absolutely everything about Macklin Celebrini.
Yeah, no, he's definitely really talented. I think he'll be considered next year on the Olympic roster, but
100%. 100%.
Yeah,
Didn't make it this year for me, but listen, he is right there. He is right there, and big things ahead for Macklin.
Yeah, so tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, they announce Team Finland and Team Sweden's rosters on NHL Network, and then at 6:30 Eastern, they announce Canada and US's rosters, and they're trying to really hard to keep them contained this year, not let them leak out. Just like the Seattle expansion draft a couple years ago, Frank Saravalli got a hold of all the picks, tweeted them out hours before it happened, kind of ruined the whole thing. but some insiders found out the roster, so maybe we'll read that out and then
Okay, so
see
yeah, so
some
it's
surprises.
not 100%, not
Yeah.
100% confirmed. But TSN and their bevy of insiders, um, who have said it's not the fine. They don't have this from Hockey Canada, but it's quote unquote well sourced. Take that for what it's worth. It looks like the team is going to be Sam Reinhart, Connor McJesus, Mitch Marner, Brad Marchand, Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Brendan Hagel, Braden Point, Mark Stone, Sam Bennett, Anthony Cirelli, Travis Konecny, and Seth Jarvis as the 13th forward. That is the projected forward lineup for Team Canada as represented by the TSN gurus. Noel, what is your initial reaction to it, and how did it differ from the guys that you had projected?
Yeah, so the third line, top nine, sorry, I think looks really good. I'm just trying to pull it up here so I can see it.
So, I'll be honest. We for everybody that doesn't know, Johnny Nolan and I, we kind of put together our own rosters beforehand because we didn't think this was going to leak out tonight. So we kind of had our own projections on kind of who we thought was going to be where. And so, listen, I'll be honest. The top six are the same six that I had exactly. The big, one there that everybody kind of assumed that was going to make this team was Zach Hyman. And listen, I just thought like Zach Hyman has not played very well this year.
No.
And listen, I'm a huge Zach Hyman fan. I like everything about him except for those law commercials that he was doing on City TV that used to come up all the time. Like those things were brutal. Zach, don't do that stuff. It was. But you know what? He doesn't look like the same guy that he was last year. And listen, you know who does look like the same guy is Sam freaking Reinhart. That guy, like I want to not believe in Sam Reinhart based on the way his career started. I don't want to believe that he's turned in and magically found this key. But Jesus, it looks like he's magically found this key.
Yeah, no, I thought him and Hyman were both going to fall off because was it crazy high shooting percentages from last year. And,
yeah. But Reinhart looks like he's just rolling it over.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. On my list, I had both Cirelli and Hagel on my team.
Oh, I only had Hagel. Cirelli, I've heard buzz around him lately just because John Cooper's coach. He likes Cirelli. He's been good this year, but
it's yeah. So I'll be honest. My fourth line when I was projecting the team out, and this is going to shock, believe me. And if you followed me on Coach's Corner or you've heard me on here bitch about John Tavares, I actually had John Tavares as my fourth line center between Hagel and Cirelli, simply because John Tavares playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs is not a second line center. He's just not. However, John Tavares is still a very, very, very good hockey player. John Tavares is an elite centerman. And I thought if you put John Tavares in a role where he was on this team and he wasn't being asked to do superhuman things, he was being asked to be defensively responsible and play sheltered minutes and win key faceoffs. To me, that's what John Tavares is at an international level right now. That's where he is, right? You can trust him. He's not gonna, be a defensive liability. He's not going to give up 5-on-5 goals. He's not going to score 5-on-5. That's clearly evident. But he's not going to cost you. So I was of the mindset that I could totally and keep in mind he's been a good Canadian soldier. He went to the Worlds last year, had the C on his jersey, looked very good. I think he scored the overtime winner in one of the games. And you know, the leadership and the brain trust of Hockey Canada said, like, hey, listen, you show up to the Worlds, you're going to get a look. You're going to get the benefit of the doubt sometimes.
And I don't know why, like, he's had such a great year. Like, I think he's never earned a spot, but
listen, I am like, I look at Seth Jarvis and I think like, listen, I'm not, it's the 13th forward for Team Canada. Like, let's be honest, right? You can't go wrong. You could have picked 27 guys that could have been that 13th forward and you would have been fine on either of them. That's how deep Canada is. But, you know, for me, maybe I'm going to say I'm a little bit of a homer. I'm a Scarborough boy at heart. I can't help it. I'm pulling for Johnny Toronto, which you know my critiques, Nolan, of John Tavares. I'm very critical of him playing in a second line role, 5-on-5. He's got trouble scoring and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But that's NHL hockey. At international hockey, if you use him the right way, I think he is an elite player still in a fourth line role, playing fourth line minutes.
Especially how good he is on faceoffs.
Right? Now, the flip side is, and I understand the argument here, if you're going to make the argument that you've got Nathan McKinnon and you've got Sidney Crosby that could take, like, it's hard to argue that
Cirelli, Bennett.
Yeah, like they're all elite face-off guys, right? Like, now, the only difference is you're also facing off against elite face-off guys too, right? Yeah. So it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't see Tavares make the team. I think, especially being that he's been a good soldier for Team Canada over the years and showed up. I would have liked to have seen it. The Seth Jarvis, I'll be honest, I did not even have Seth Jarvis on my radar when this whole thing went down. Did you?
No, not at all. I haven't heard his name at all until just now. My biggest three surprises on the forward are Sam Bennett, Cirelli, and Jarvis. Cirelli, we kind of heard about just because Cooper's the coach. He likes Cirelli, good shutdown defensive center. Bennett the Menace, obviously, go in there. Like Bennett, Cirelli connecting, that's a good line. They good defensively. They'll get chippy. They all have a little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
But I kind of want Wilson a little bit more than Bennett maybe or Cirelli. But and Jarvis, like over Robert Thomas, Suzuki, Tavares. Some good names up there.
You know who I really liked on this team? And I'm surprised. And he didn't get a lot of chatter. And so like this is a John pick, is Strome.
Yeah. He said insane year, like 30 points in 20 games or something like that.
Like I really thought, like, if you rolled out a line, I had him penciled in on the third line of Strome, Scheifele, and Point.
Oh, Scheifele too. I forgot about him.
Right? Did I see Scheifele didn't make this team, did he?
No.
I mean, like there's another one.
Yeah, right? He's having a crazy year too.
You know, and listen, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I watch a lot of Winnipeg hockey, but it's hard to argue Mark Scheifele. He's kind of that, he's the quiet guy. He just does every year the same thing over and over, and he's the lead guy there. And I feel like he kind of gets buried, pardon the pun, with snow and being buried in Winnipeg, but I feel like he kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And you know, I look at, like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like guys like Mark Stone and Scheifele, they're kind of the same person in my head.
Yeah, I think Stone's just a bit better defensively, a bit better in that sense, but Chevy's a better goal scorer, I'd say.
And so, like, the question is with Stone, who it looks like has made the team, is Stone going to be healthy?
Yeah.
Right? And like that's a whole other thing that we got to look at here is of the play, like just because you're named on this team, I know, everybody that's watching knows we're going to get 3 or 4 injuries, right? Somewhere along the way.
Yeah, tournament's still 2 months away.
And so
Yeah.
let's talk about this for a second. Are you of the mindset that this was a smart idea to name these teams this soon? Like, was it necessary? Like I don't know. Like, that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it too much. I think it's good to start promoting it 2 months in advance, get everyone kind of get the juices flowing a bit. I don't know, because they can also, I heard today, if there's an injury that happens, they have until the first day of the tournament to add like extra replacements. So say Stone comes out, they still have Jarvis, they can add another new 13th forward.
Right. Yeah.
So
And
they're
that's
not,
it. And I'm sure I'm not going to lie to you. I think we'd all be silly if we didn't think there was going to be some Tampa Bay Lightning long-term injury reserve magic injuries that just showed up. So if all of a sudden we find out that Brendan Hagel has, crapped the bed in the last, month and a half before the tournament and has 3 points and is now playing fourth line minutes for Tampa, all of a sudden he's going to have a swollen knee that prevents him from playing in the tournament, right? Like, let's not be surprised when something like that takes place.
yeah. Okay, you want to go to defense now?
Okay, so going to defense, we got this is like the teammate tour. Shockingly, the first defensive pair is Devin Taves and Cale Makar. If you've watched this show for any length of time, all 3 of us love Cale Makar. And like if Connor McJesus is the headline for the forwards, Cale Makar is the headline for the defense, right?
Yep.
So,
yep.
Second pair looks like it's going to be Shea Theodore and Alex Pietrangelo.
So you got the Colorado pair and then the Vegas pair.
You got the Vegas pair, and I think, don't kid yourself, there was a little bit of the Doug Armstrong St. Louis special coming through here when you hear the third line pair, because this one, I'll be honest, I did not have either of the last 3 defensemen even on the radar of making this team. Josh Morrissey with Colton Parenko, and the 7th defenseman, just for the record, if Sheldon Keefe was our coach, it would totally be Justin Hall. Just for the record, he's
American.
It doesn't matter. Sheldon would have found a way to adopt him, and he would have become Canadian.
Yeah.
But Travis Sanheim of the Philadelphia Flyers is your 7th defenseman. What are your initial thoughts on the defensive?
Yeah,
picks?
so on my team, I had Taves, Makar, Theodore, Pietrangelo, Morrissey. I don't know how you didn't have Morrissey. He's been insane this year and last year.
So but hold on. So I went a different way here on defense. I took Owen Power on defense because of the fact that young guy, he's going to be around for years and years and years to come. You would have him as a third pairing defenseman. He's not going to be expected to play massive minutes, but being around the Makars and the Pietrangelos is an investment in the future. And that's why I thought Owen Power is a logical pick. Now, I'm not, you can't argue with Josh Morris. Like, Morrissey's played great. I didn't have him on my radar. If I'm being honest, that's just me.
Yeah, no, Power's a good pick. I think he'll have a good chance to make it next year. I definitely could have seen him being like the 7th defenseman this year. Just bring him along just for the experience. But maybe there's an injury. Maybe he's the next guy up.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Colton Parenko. Did you see Parenko?
No. I've heard a couple of people say his name over the past couple of weeks, but like on the right side, I was looking at beside Makar, Pietrangelo locked in there. And then there's Dobson, Bouchard, Mackenzie Weegar.
Okay, so hold on.
Been really good this year.
So let's talk about Edmonton. because if you're watching us in Edmonton, I mean, God love you. You guys are having a rough time. No Hyman, no Nuge, and no Bouchard. And I want to be very clear. Zach Hyman played his way off this team. He was as penciled in a player on this team as there could be at the beginning or at the end of last season after the Stanley Cup run. I don't know that there's a Canadian alive that didn't have Zach Hyman penciled in on the first line. Never mind the fourth line, the first line. You playing with McJesus, you're automatically there. It was almost like what was the guy? Was it Kunitz that played with Crosby?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Crosby's on the team automatically, and you're his line mate, and you're scoring. Chris Kunitz, you're now an Olympian. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Right. That was Zach Hyman's pedigree, and he screwed the pooch effectively, like with his play. The Nuge last year, he was a 100-point guy. Swiss Army knife, can play any position. You can put him out in any role, fourth line, second line, power play, penalty kill. You can do it all. And this year he's looked like a guy who's just not interested. As for Evan Bouchard, I just want to go on record. If you remember talking last year when the playoffs were starting, I didn't believe in Evan Bouchard then. He's a one-dimensional hockey player. He's an offensive defenseman who, with Leon Draisaitl and McJesus and the Nuge and Hyman, and he's great. But if you got to count on him to play defense, you know what I mean? He becomes Morgan Riley, but like a lighter version of Morgan Riley, if you know what I mean.
Just watch that game against the Leafs. That couple turnovers we had to let us tie the game and end up winning it.
Dude, just like, so if you're in Edmonton and you're mad about Evan Bouchard, all I'm going to say to you is watch the other defensemen play.
I think the Oilers fans understand why he's not on the team. They've been frustrated with him all year. He's not the best defensively. And the way I look at it too is I never had him on any of my rosters.
Me neither.
Your top power play, you have Cale Makar. You don't need Bouchard.
You don't need the one-dimensional guy.
Even after Makar, you have Theodore, Morrissey, Petrangelo, that can run the second power play or whatever change you want to make. You don't need a dimensional defenseman when you have Cale Makar that can do everything better than him.
I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, and then also Dougie Hamilton not on the roster either. Another right-hand defenseman.
So and because it's a Leaf show, I'm going to say, listen, I had him on my team was Chris Tanev. I feel like all I've done this entire season, and I even talked about him earlier in the show, I love absolutely everything that Chris Tanev does. And as a third pair defenseman, killing penalties, blocking shots. Is there anybody better that blocks shots than Chris Tanev?
Nope, he leads the league in block shots.
So I mean, I'm looking at, I'm especially thinking about when we play the Americans who are loaded, and as well as I do, it's going to come down to power play goals and power play special team stuff. You can now, granted, Cale Makar is going to play in every situation, and Petro can play in they can all play in every situation. But to me, I'm looking at Colton Parayko, I get the Doug Armstrong connection, and it's his guy, and he wants him out there. For me, and call me a bit of a homer, you wouldn't be the first guy. I want Chris Tanev on that ice. That's just me, just my opinion.
Yeah, and going back to the Doug Armstrong bias, adding a guy on the Blues, Colton Parayko. That's why I was surprised to see Robert Thomas left off the team. Over Cirelli. I think I'd rather have Thomas just with his pedigree, a bit more offensively gifted. I find right-handed shot. Although we have a lot of right-handed shots on the team.
I'm taking Robert Thomas over Seth Jarvis.
Yeah,
but
Suzuki too, probably.
No. Listen, it's great. We don't have a Habs forward on the team. I think that's great. It's a Leaf show. Let's not get that confused. Anytime we can screw the Habs, I think it's a great thing.
There's the same amount of Habs and Leafs on the team,
which is criminal on every level. But I do think that if we're going to be honest about it, Suzuki is in the Zach Hyman camp. He played his way off the team. Because I'll be honest, if we had done this at the beginning of the season, Nick Suzuki's on my team. 100% he is. But the Nick Suzuki that I thought we were getting at the start of the season is not the Nick Suzuki I've seen. And that's no bias to Montreal. I'm not happy to pick. I would do it begrudgingly. But that said, I would still pick him if I thought he was warranted to be picked. I wouldn't feel good about it. I'd complain about it, but he'd still be on the team if I thought he was warranted to be there. But Nick's is like, here's a better question. Does Montreal's favorite Saint, Cole Caulfield, make the American team? I don't think he does.
I've heard Caulfield and Tage Thompson both are being left off the American team.
Yeah, I would. Well, I mean, Tage Thompson.
He's 2 goals tonight.
I'm looking. Listen, I've got a couple of buddies who are big Montreal fans, and all I hear is Saint Cole, right, all the time, and he's the second coming, and da 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 da. I don't see it. Talented goal scorer.
They already have enough goal scorers, though. You don't need it.
That state, and be very clear, you guys. As deep as Canada is, do yourself a scary favor and just rummage through the potential U.S. lineups, because that team is scary. We might have a better defense than the Americans.
I don't know. Their defense is pretty solid. Hughes, McAvoy, Fox, Slavin, Werenski, Faber, John Carlson, Sanderson. That's 8 guys just off the top of my head.
Yeah, no,
better than Parayko, all of those guys.
I get it. None of them are better than Cale Makar.
No.
None of them are, and I mean this very respectfully, none of them are close.
Quinn Hughes.
No. Come on. What are we talking about? Quinn Hughes? What are we talking about?
They're the 2 favorites right now for Norris. Quinn won last year. I don't know.
Listen, that's like saying, listen, I've got a Lambo and a really nice Honda Civic. Okay? But, both are really great cars. And it's true. They're both really great cars. One is a Lambo, one is a Civic. Let's not pretend that they're in the same class, right? Cale Makar, and you've heard me say this on the show a trillion times, Cale Makar is the best guy that I have seen as a defenseman maybe since Nick Lindstrom. And to me, before Nick Lindstrom, it was, I don't know, maybe Ray Bork is in that threshold when I was a kid. And then before him was probably Bobby, right? But I was barely born, and I only know the stories of Bobby Orr. However, what I will say is this. Grapes, to this day, still says Bobby Orr is the greatest player he's ever seen. And there's nobody that trusts Grapes' opinion more than I do. So if Grapes says he's the best, I'm giving him as the best. But I think Cale Makar, listen, Cale Makar, and again, I would encourage everybody. Colorado this year has given up two games this year. They've given up 8 spots. 2 games, they've given up 6 spots. It's the goalie.
Do you want to hear something that's going on live as we're recording?
I do.
Buffalo's beating Colorado 4-0 after the first period. Georgia allowed 4 goals on 8 shots.
They got to do something there. Listen, Colorado's in Colorado. Man, Colorado's in a bad.
They just got Wedgwood.
Yeah, but let's be honest though. Wedgwood, really, that's the answer? That's not the answer. Let's not lie to each other and pretend like that guy is going to be. Oh, okay, they're going to get it figured out. They got Wedgwood now. That's not the answer. I look at we've got Nashville coming up. I think is it Wednesday tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
So there is a team that is an enigma wrapped in, I don't know, pick your fun adjective. I can't figure that team out to save my life. That team is loaded on paper, should be fantastic. They've got a great coach who everybody agrees is a good coach. If you told me at the beginning of the season Nashville is going to be the third worst team in the NHL, I would have bet my house that wasn't going to happen.
I had them winning the Central Division. I thought they were going to be a wagon this year.
Like you and me both. They won free agency. Everybody, like, we looked at it, we all went, man, Nashville's going to be good.
Yeah.
And they can't figure it out. They just can't.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. I think some change up needs to be made, but who knows? Okay, let's touch on the goalies, and then we'll wrap it up.
So the goalies, we've got St. Louis, Jordan Binnington, Aiden Hill coming out of Vegas, and the shock for me, Sam Montembeault, a.k.a. first game of the season shutout versus the Maple Leafs. Good enough to make Team Canada. Who knew? Thoughts on the goaltending?
It's terrible. Just looking at like the U.S. and other countries like that, like Hellbuck, Onger, Swayman, Stolars, Wall. Just
okay. So,
and there's a couple guys left off too. But go ahead.
Okay, so I've got a different take on this. Okay, I've got a different take on this.
Yeah.
Listen, I love Jake Ottinger. Think he's an elite goaltender. Connor Hellebuyck, if you've watched me for any length of time, I left him off my top 50 list. I think he's the most overrated goaltender in the league. Absolutely. I don't care that, he's going to win Vezinas and play great in the regular season. He's a Sheldon Keefe goalie, right? He's a goalie that plays great when there's no pressure on. Every time I've seen that guy play, when it matters, he folds like a cheap suit. So if I want Connor Hellebuyck to start, I 100% do. In a gold medal game, I want Connor Hellebuyck in goal for the States. 100% I do. I look at Aiden Hill, won a Stanley Cup. Right?
Yep. Yeah, we got two goalies that won cups.
Listen, I look at Jordan Binnington. Jordan Binnington won a Stanley Cup on the road. Okay?
In TD Garden.
Both goalies.
That's where the gold medal game is too.
So listen, both Canadian goaltenders, while they're not the sexiest, they're not Patrick Waugh, they're not Martin Brodeur, they're not Cujo, they're not even Ed Belfour. Like I get it. And if you're thinking about those guys in that context, I get why you're concerned. I do. They won Stanley Cups. Both of them. Both of them as underdogs, showing up, winning the prize when they weren't supposed to.
Yeah.
So those are guys that have been there, done it, and proven in big moments that they can be the guy. I get the States have, listen, we can throw the flashy guys out and they look sexy and they're great names. None of them have done it.
All matters is how good they are in a 5-game tournament.
But listen, none of them have done it when it's mattered. None of them have. So I get it. We're not sexy between the pipes. I'm taking Canadian goaltenders. I'm taking Canadians under pressure all the time.
Yeah, I just have one problem with the goaltending.
Logan Thompson should be there.
Yeah, or Fleury too. I'm a little biased because I've bet on Fleury making the team for a lot of money because he's a heavy underdog. But and I thought it's a 5-game tournament max. You're not gonna
like your third goalie's not playing.
Yeah, so why not bring Fleury? His final season in the NHL.
The guys love him.
Everyone loves him. He's just bringing everyone in. He's won cups.
He's won cups. He's won gold medals. He's well respected in the fraternity, right?
Yep.
Guys like him. It's a short tournament. He's got the experience.
He's from Quebec.
And like, you know what's interesting here? It's kind of the opposite way they've gone on the forwards that they went with the goalies. They went with somebody young like Montembeault, who, again, listen, he might turn out to be a great goalie. God love him. He may end up being the next guy. And I hope he is for Team Canada's sake. But on the flip side, I hope he gets into a mental rut and ends up being terrible, and Montreal's bet all this money on him. That's what I really hope, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But then you have somebody like Bedard, who you think you would want for that role of.
I would take Bedard over Jarvis, which is the weird part. They're the same kind of forwards, right-handed, smaller guys.
Right, but like my point is, if you're going to take a young up-and-comer, I would think that you would look at somebody with the upside of a Bedard and getting the experience as that being more valuable to Team Canada overall than Sam Montembeault.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's just my opinion, and again, maybe I'm biased because I just don't want Montreal to have anybody.
Yeah, no, I think the Montembeault one is
curious,
pretty baffling. Maybe because half the tournaments in Montreal, they want some representation for Canada. But I'm looking at the stats right now. Montembeault this year 6-10-2 with an 897. Logan Thompson 10-1-1 with a 911, and Fleury 5-0-1 with a 905. So you're taking a goalie under 900, and you have two. Logan Thompson's an up-and-coming goalie too. He's
so listen,
20.
If like just to put this in perspective to Leaf fans that are watching this show, this would be like the Russians saying we don't want Vasilevsky, but we'll take Samsonov. We don't want Bobrovsky, but we'll take Samsonov and his 862 goals or save percentage. Yeah. And by the way, for anybody that's watching, did I read correctly? I think I did. Samsonov got released this week.
No, I don't think so.
But released?
They lost 6-0 to Utah, and he had a pretty bad, brutal turnover right to Kerfoot.
Did he not get cut though? I thought he got the Jack Campbell tour.
No, I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. No. Well, listen, you keep losing 6-0 to teams like Utah, you're on the Jack Campbell tour very quickly. Very quickly.
Yeah.
All right, so that's our recap of Team Canada. What do we got? We got coming up this week for the Leafers. We got Nashville on Wednesday, Washington, I think, on Friday, and a back-to-back against Kyle Dubas on Saturday night. What are you thinking we should expect for the week for the Buds?
I'm going to go 4 points. Yeah, I'll go 4 points. I think I said 2 last week. I think we got 2. So that's
okay. So
back on track.
Yeah. No. So listen, I'm a believer right now, and I have no problem saying if I don't think we're pulling it, I'll take us for a 0 spot if I think it's warranted. I see us taking all 6 points here. I really do. Okay. I think that Nashville, at the beginning of the season, I wouldn't have taken us to beat them. But right now, yeah, I think we can totally take Nashville. Washington, they're a different team without Ovechkin in the lineup. I heard he's coming back. He's edging to come back early. Skating. That guy is like, crazy. Listen, say what you want about him. The guy is I don't even know what you say about Ovechkin anymore. The guy shreds his knee, and he's like, "Don't worry, I'll be back in a month."
Russian machine don't break.
Yeah, Russians, listen, they got those good doctors over there. Not as good as the German doctors with Austin, but we'll save that. Yeah. That's a whole other conversation.
So these next couple games too, I'm just looking at it. There's a couple guys that might be a little pissed off coming into the game based off not making the team. I look at Morgan Rielly, Tavares, Tanev, and then on Nashville you got Stamkos, O'Reilly, Marchessault. The Capitals, you got Strome, Pens. You got Letang.
So I'll be honest. Maybe. So on out of all of those guys, I had on my team I had Strome, and on my team I had Tavares and Tanev. But if we're going to be honest about it, listen, I watch John Tavares play all the time. I watch Chris Tanev play all the time. Am I biased in my opinion of them? Probably. Probably. Dylan Strome, listen, I'm just a fan. Just a fan. That kid, I think, is legit. But listen, if you're Steve Stamkos and you're mad you didn't make the team, play better. Marchessault, same thing, play better, right? You can't be you can't be a favored team and then come out, shit the bed, not look like you're interested in playing, and then complain that your old ass didn't rally. I don't know. I can get there with those guys. Morgan Riley, listen, guys, if we're going to be honest about what Morgan Riley is not on this team. Morgan Riley has no business being on this team, right? Morgan Riley is good for what he is as a National Hockey League player. He's a solid 1B, 2A defenseman. Guy can carry the puck, can carry the load. Like, I'm okay with that at an NHL level. At an elite top line, first pair, second pair, national team level, guys, if we're going to be honest about what Morgan Riley is, that's not what Morgan Riley is. He's not that guy. We can be biased in Toronto and say he's our best defenseman, and he may very well be. But if we're talking about what you're building a team and whatever, I got Chris Tanev on that team before I got Morgan Riley on that team every day of the week, twice on Sunday.
Yeah, because you don't need Morgan Riley on there running power play. You don't need him.
No, that's what I'm saying. You got guys,
role players.
The guys that can do what Morgan Riley can do, we got guys that are better at doing what Morgan Riley does. Listen, that is not me hating on Morgan Riley. Be very clear. I love Morgan Riley. What Morgan Riley does for the Maple Leafs is important, and his value is not to be debated for the Maple Leafs. But that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about a loaded Team Canada. Now, if there was a Team Canada B team, I have no problem. He's absolutely on that team, right? But we're not doing that. This isn't like the Agent Court Lions playing in the Scarborough Hockey Association, right? Like we got other things going on. So did Johnny send you picks for who he liked?
No, he didn't. I forgot to ask him that.
He's he's on the roulette wheel right now. He's going, betting 17 for Wendell. That's what he's thinking.
I think that's
all right. So are we good?
Yeah, I think that's everything we got for this week. Just a recap of the 3 games this past week, the Canada roster, projected roster. And we'll be back next Tuesday to see if this roster is real.
Yeah, we'll find out.
We'll find out. Hopefully, hope it's not with the Montembeault pick and Sorelli, maybe Jarvis, but we'll see.
Listen, thank you, everybody, for listening. Special shout out. Thank you to our sponsors, Bjorn Hockey and Don Cherry Sports Grill. And as always, we will see you next week. Go Leafs, go.